Why is it that most of the time we build up chores and projects to be longer and far more time consuming than they end up being, and we waste more time putting it off than if we would just go ahead and complete the project or task at hand? These tasks can be as simple as just putting something away where it belongs, and just instead we set it down somewhere, and then all of a sudden you have a room that looks like a dumping ground. And then of course you build up this mountain of stuff, and now it's like, all right, this is going to take me all day, or at least the better part of the day. But when we actually go to take care of whatever that task or chore is, it's really not that bad. The first step I took in this room in particular is a little bit out of order of how we typically consider for decluttering, and that was because there's things that belonged elsewhere. So for instance, the library books, I knew they had to go back in a relatively short amount of time. So it just made sense to go ahead and grab those and put those in my vehicle. And while I was already in the mode of like, I need to put these in my vehicle, I took out the things that needed to go into the garage. And it's interesting because, I mean, how many times have I thought, oh, those need to go in the garage? And I'm like, oh, I'll just do that later. Or it's snowing. Or, I'll just do it in the morning on my way out the door, when I'm preoccupied with getting ready for work. So the last thing on my mind is making sure that an extension cord and a battery charger is going out into the garage, obviously. And then again, I kept adding more and more things to this, which, and yes, some of this stuff is going to end up in a yard sale, or if I don't have a yard sale by a particular date, it is getting simply donated. That's just kind of where I'm at. I would like the extra cash. It would be handy trying to pay off the student loans, and, I know like yard sales and stuff are a lot of work, but I figured it's worth a shot, and I'm actually going to try like a super simplified technique that I'm hoping will work. So once I figure it all out, I'll let you know what it is, and I'll let you know how it goes, which probably won't be for another month or two when the weather really does break. Anyway, so that was just a thought I had, was like, go ahead and just know when I'm cutting my ties and I'm no longer like having this yard sale. Now, back to what I was saying before about how we build up tasks to be more gargantuan and time-consuming in our minds than what we had anticipated. And like I mentioned, I believe the raw footage of all of this, and there's dead space and everything as I'm trying to get my camera angle, or if I realize like, I need both of my hands to carry something or take something to another room or manage something. So, anyway, so the raw footage of this was approximately between the 18 and 20 minute mark. And for the sake of argument, which I don't think this is the case, but let's just pretend that all of my take it there now efforts that you don't fully see, 100% in real time took another 18 to 20 minutes, which I think is a huge overestimation. But let's just say that was the case because maybe I stopped and took a bathroom break, or went and got water, or I stopped to pet the cats or give them treats. Let's just, in our minds, just really overestimate this. So let's go even further. So like the most this whole room took to get at least to be functional. And, I get that like there are still things there. Like I still want to go through the trunk full of holiday decorations. The closet actually isn't terrible, but it could certainly use a pass. But to make this like actually a reasonable workspace took 40 to 45 minutes. I still think that's a huge overestimation. I would say probably 30 minutes tops, which if you think about it is not that unreasonable to clean up. And this is really kind of a lot of mess. I recognize that. And, am I setting up the monitors and getting it to, 100% my ideal workspace to be? No, absolutely not. But to make it at least functional, in my mind, I would have thought that this would have taken several hours minimum. Maybe in the past we have experienced things that took far longer than we anticipated, and that just adds to our mindset that whatever we have ahead of us that we want to accomplish is just going to be so time consuming and strenuous that we just continue to put it off. And what I found really interesting is when I tried to research this phenomenon, I couldn't find anything. And I don't mean, just going down Google or Bing or Edge or whatever. I mean, I was trying to look through scholarly articles and I cannot find any explanation or studies that have been done on this, which I find very interesting, especially since there's been this whole phenomenon of time blindness, as there's this building awareness with ADHD and how really distorted sometimes our mindset around time or our internalized time clocks just don't exist. But it's also interesting that our perception of time is also very skewed. Now, in this particular clip, all I'm doing for the most part is breaking down empty boxes that I had put in there. But what I'm also doing now at this point is I'm unboxing all of the things that eventually I want to put up in this room and have my full setup. So that way, once I do have the energy and the mindset to go ahead and put together my whole computer station and monitors and everything, it's just a little less hassle to have everything all out of the boxes. And, well, I did actually have to put some of the cords and stuff in the closet eventually later, just because, Queso, as always, was trying to get into them and chomp on them. And he just loves cords, and more than he loves cords, he loves the little metal connector ends. So yeah, but in general, just by getting all of these things out of the boxes, I think it's going to make, when I actually do the makeover portion of this, so much smoother and less daunting in my mind, because a whole step has already been taken care of. And again, just this initial step of taking things out of the boxes and or breaking down boxes that had started to collect in this room and put them out. In my mind, I genuinely thought this was going to be probably at least a 15 to 20 minute endeavor just to take all these out. And you see, I'm actually not really working at any breakneck speed like I normally do in my 5 minutes matters, because I wasn't going for a 5 minute or particular kind of time frame. But you can actually see now, I started putting a timer on screen, and I'll let you be just as shocked as I was at, how I, in my mind, thought, oh gosh, here's 20 minutes out the window. And yet, we're almost coming up to the end of just breaking these down. And let's be honest, taking these out to the recycle bin really did not take that long at all. I will say I did keep this box in particular because for some reason it's just the right size, that if I just need to boost my tripod just a little bit, it's just right. So I did keep that one, which will seem strange to some people. I know we don't keep good boxes for the sake of keeping good boxes. But once all of the recycling was taken out, I was already kind of in the mode of taking care of all the random stuff on the floor, such as cleaning out the dead cat grass container thing, and just other random things like empty treat stuff and whatever else that, has ended up on the floor that, I could pick up without needing to go get a vacuum out. Let's go ahead and do a quick progress check just to see how much better this room feels with all of the big stuff up off the floor. Full disclosure, before we get started on the desk, I did go ahead and grab some stuff for knit night, and as well, I took the litter box to change out Chloe's. I found it really interesting that the raw footage of this whole everything I filmed was a little bit over, I believe, 18 minutes. But even then, like, if you break it down into chunks, no one thing really took that long. And, you know, we tell ourselves, oh, I'll just chip away at it here and there. And sometimes we just don't even do that. But I still would encourage you, like, even if, like this office is off of a hallway that, you know, to get to the master bedroom, I walk back and forth between the living room, kitchen, even to get to the laundry, like, is, like, all the way around on the other side. So, like, it really would not have been that big of a deal that every time I pass through here, what if I just did one or two things or put one or two things away? But, like, I don't know if it's just a lack of habit or if it's like we have this idea that, like, oh, but I just want to do what I want to do, or, well, I'll do that later because maybe we do think it's not going to take that long, and that's all the more incentive to just, you know, let's just put it off because someday soon it's really not going to take that long. But then, you know, we're still living with this space that's ends up being very stressful to us. Some stuff I did set down in here because I really thought it would belong in here, and either I changed my mind on where I think it belongs, or I just didn't put it away in the right spot, which is like, come on, like, I'm not even 10 steps away from, like, really any part of this room. I just, you know, set it down and thought, oh, well, I'll do it on a work from home day, except that it got so out of control. Like, who could possibly work from home in this? And so then I would end up, like, working on the couch or the dining room or all the places you shouldn't work because, you know, when possible, it's nice to have a space dedicated to that so that, like, your mind just knows you're in work mode, or when you're done and you leave that space, then you're not working anymore and you're focusing on not work things. As you can see, I grabbed one of those handy little caddies from Dollar Tree. I believe I've also seen relatively inexpensive ones at Dollar General. And of course, you could pay even more at Target or wherever for a little bit nicer of one. But I felt like that was a good little, I think Cass from the Clutterbug calls it a tidy tote. We talked about it actually during a live, and here I was at Dollar Tree looking at this tote and going, what a great idea. Like, instead of, like, constantly going back and forth with stuff, which, I mean, I know for some people that really does work very well for the take it there now, but I wanted a little bit more of things that, you know, wouldn't necessarily, like, fall out of my hands if I had a bunch of stuff, or, you know, like, those little dividers were going to keep me a little bit more on focus of, I'm going to this room, I'm setting this here, and not squirreling and, you know, doing all the things that take us away from staying focused on the area that we are trying to dedicate our time to. One item that might stick out to you is, yes, those are ballet slippers, and I don't know if you happen to notice there were also jazz shoes in there. I do also fully believe in, Dawn has this concept of, like, fantasy clutter of, is this something that fantasy me wants to do, or I love the idea of doing this? And it's actually, those are going to go in the time will tell bin in the other room, simply because I was trying to take lessons in the fall, and, you know, I'm going to sound like an old geezer here when I say an 8 p.m. class was not working for me, like, at all. It was way too late, and I'm not someone that can come home from an activity and go right to bed. Like, by then, like, then I'm up, and then I'm, like, lying in bed just, you know, way too amped up to sleep. So I looked at another studio not too far away that also offers adult lessons in both ballet and jazz, and I also believe they do hip hop, but they happen to be on a hiatus from the adult classes until the spring. I will keep an eye on that, and either if they just don't bring it back, or I just end up not doing it, and you know, to me, like, 6 p.m. is a much more reasonable time than 8 p.m. for some reason. I know, at the ripe old age of 42. But so those are going in the time will tell bin. And if by summer I haven't taken any lessons, then they will get donated, even if it's just to the studio for someone who may not be able to afford them. So I am hybrid, which means I go in the office 3 days a week. At least that's our minimum. And I'm allowed to work from home 2 days a week. So, I mean, a lot of times I will go into the office, partly because, you know, it is nice. And again, it's kind of like that trigger of like, I'm in work mode. Also, I don't know if you notice my social life right now, but kind of like work and you guys, that's my whole social life. So like, which don't get me wrong, this is like, I love this season that I'm in right now, and you guys, like my whole community is so awesome. So it's totally worth it to me. In addition, a lot of times I was going into work because, well, okay, I have 2 monitors at work, plus, you know, the actual laptop monitor. So then there's 3 screens if I really need it. Anyone who like works with a lot of different types of documents and stuff, like, you know, like screens are just like, they're precious, like gold resources. And so like, okay, I did that for a while. And then so I was like, well, all right. And then I buy monitors and I don't even put them up because I think it's going to take like 3 days or something to just put up monitors and set everything up. And I will say that process did take a little bit longer than anticipated. And so like, so that's where I'm like, I don't know. Is that why like we have one instance of something takes longer than we thought it was going to take, and now everything in our minds is just going to take exponentially longer no matter what it is? And even if like our collective data says things don't really take that long, it's just every so often you hit like bumps in the road for certain things, and that's just part of life. But even more so, a lot of the reason that I was going into work pretty much every day there for a while was honestly like, and this is not to say that my heart is not still hurting, but like, it still really sucks. Okay, so behind me is a cat tree, and that is where Miss Gypsy would be my coworker. You guys didn't get to meet her because I literally started filming, I think, the same morning that she ended up going over the Rainbow Bridge kind of unexpectedly. Like, she was getting old, but there was like nothing about that morning. Like, she was acting a little odd, but there was nothing like major totally leading up to thinking that that was going to be her time. And so like, it's been hard to work from home. And so that's why, for the most part, unless like it just didn't make sense, like if I have an appointment, you know, closer to home, then I'm going to work from home. But again, that's where I would start working on the couch or at the dining room table and all the things they say you shouldn't do if you can help it. And what's interesting is like, I'm like, is that normal though? And so unfortunately, a coworker has lost his dog recently. And so I remember passing by his desk and going, oh, hey, I didn't know you're in on these days. Because a lot of people have like patterned days that they like to come in. And he's like, yeah, I don't really want to work from home right now. And I was like, yeah, no, I get it. I mean, that's why I was coming in every day for, you know, at 4 or 5 months. And I don't know that I totally feel ready to be at home. Like, it's still sad. And now I'm just looking around for any last items that will go for my Take It There Now last round. So I have a sweater that is going to go in the Time Will Tell bin because it was the wrong size, but I do like the color, so hopefully I'll fit it eventually. And so I'm just kind of taking random things back where they belong, and, you know, things that go back to work, so that's got to go in my car, and of course I'm going to keep that. And also in the shoebox that I thought I was going to keep from the other room ended up being DVDs that I discovered I really could just get from the library or really anywhere else. And because I massively failed to get footage of just the after of the tidy up, which, you know, oops, I didn't even like vacuum or anything, but you can tell the difference. And so here's a quick sneak peek of the new setup, and that will be a whole separate video when we get to that point. But you know, massive fail on my part for leaving out footage, so sneak peek. As always, I really enjoyed hanging out with you today, and I am so proud of whatever progress you made. I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.